All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar info session on Point of Pride's Thrive Fund. We know there's a bunch of folks from all over the country and even around the world who are joining the call today. And so I hope that you're having a great day so far. And thank you in advance for your time and attention by joining us. My name is Jeff Main. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the executive director and co-founder of Point of Pride. I've been with the organization since its inception back in 2016, though we get our roots even earlier than that. I'm originally from New York City, quite proudly, and now I live in Philly with my family. You might hear small, high-pitched voices in the background as my 5-year-old is running around. As ED, I wear a lot of hats here. I oversee the growth of the organization and its programs. I spearhead different types of partnerships and donor relationships. And I also put my background in marketing and design to good use in a variety of ways. Again, so grateful for everybody joining us today and excited to get into it.
And good afternoon. My name is Tyler, he, him. I am the director of programs here with Point of Pride. What that means is I manage the programs and the relationships with the recipients and the providers. Um, Folks inside the organization know me as the spreadsheet guy, but if you are at all familiar with me or our work, you probably know me as the email guy. I send a lot of emails. Before coming to Point of Pride, I worked full time in the healthcare industry for 15, 16 years. It was a long time. So happy to bring my talents here and use them for good. Our care coordinator, Abby, was not able to make it today. Abby has been with us a little over a year, lives in Houston with her husband and multitude of pets, and is working to pursue a psychology degree. She is helps make sure that our organization and the recipients that we serve have all the resources that they need to use their awards well and properly. And you'll also notice that we have Mackenzie and Nikki on as ASL interpreters. We do appreciate their time. We'll be making sure that they stay spotlighted for anyone who needs ASL support during the session.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. While today's session is going to focus entirely on our Thrive Fund, our organization offers financial aid and direct support through other programs that we wanted to quickly share with you in case it's helpful. The annual Trans Surgery Fund provides direct financial aid to trans folks towards gender-affirming surgery. The HRT Access Fund provides financial aid to trans folks who can't afford gender-affirming hormone replacement therapy or telemedicine access. The Electrolysis Support Fund provides direct financial aid to folks who need permanent hair removal services, including electrolysis and laser. And Point of Pride also mails out free chest binders and femme shapewear tucking undergarments to trans folks who need them entirely for free. We've served thousands of trans people in all 50 states and around the world. Each of the programs that I just mentioned has its own application process, timeline, and details that you can learn more about on our website, www.pointofpride.org. All right, so today's agenda. There's no need to screenshot. This deck will be shared with you in an email following today's info session. As Tyler quickly mentioned, we'll also be sharing this info session to our YouTube channel. And so what we're going to do today is go over the program. We'll share important dates, what you can expect as an applicant, what our reviews process looks like, what our recipient experience looks like, and then we're going to end with an open Q&A. If at any point you would like to ask a question, please feel free to do so. Tyler will be monitoring the Q&A, but again, you can also save them towards the end in case it's a question we just haven't gotten to yet. All right, so let's get started. About the Thrive Fund. This is a program that provides direct financial assistance towards gender-affirming needs, a wide variety of needs that includes things like prosthetics and wigs, vocal training, fertility preservation, and more. It is intentionally very broad and open-ended. This is also a really new program for our organization. Last year was the first ever cycle of the Thrive Fund, and we awarded nearly $60,000 to our recipients. This year, we're anticipating somewhere between 40 and 55 total recipients. And so, I want to pause here and make explicit that access to healthcare is a right that every person, trans or cis, deserves. Unfortunately, with our current resources, we do anticipate that this will be a competitive program. And so we are expecting somewhere between a 5 and 20%, of all applicants will receive grant funding. Um, we unfortunately don't have a better frame of reference to compare to previous years because this is such a young program. So for context, our other financial aid programs all average between 2 and 25% of an award rate. So let's talk about the program requirements. We try to have as few requirements as possible to keep our program as inclusive as possible. So we require that you identify as trans. And by that, we just mean not cis. So every identity underneath a very broad trans umbrella. You must have financial need that prevents you from affording a specific healthcare need or service. That request must be for an upcoming need, so not something that has already happened, that is not covered by one of Point of Pride's other programs that I mentioned a few minutes ago. So you can apply for anything that is not surgery, HRT, permanent hair removal services, or gender affirming garments. We also require that your request is not for transportation, housing, or emergency needs. The way our grant making cycle works, we cannot unfortunately accept any time sensitive or crisis related applications. Applicant age. So for most types of support, we're going to, or excuse me, you must be 18 years or older or have permission from a parent or guardian. Tyler has set our application form up beautifully so that if you are making a request where that is the case, there'll be a little alert, you'll be notified. In terms of location, last year our program was restricted just to applicants within the United States. We're trying to broaden that a bit. So now, if you live outside of the United States, you may still be eligible. Again, it's going to be dependent on the types of products or services that we'll be able to support. Some of this is so we can remain compliant with 501(c)(3) state and federal guidelines. For others, it might just be logistics or other things. So we're going to be evaluating a lot of international requests for support on a case-by-case basis to see how we can show up and help. The Thrive Fund prioritizes applicants that are in need of purchases or services that happen one time or have clearly defined start and end dates. And I'll give some examples of what that looks like in just a second. If you remember one thing from today's info session, though, if you're unsure whether you're eligible or not, or even if the type of care that you need is ongoing, it's not a one-time thing, you're still welcome to apply. We'd rather have you apply and we'll let you know eligibility concerns or get more information than have you not. In the application process, what our reviewers are really looking for too is an indication that your request is going to help you access another type of gender affirming or transition related healthcare need. Said another way, we want to see how what you're asking for is going to lead to really tangible positive outcomes in your health, your overall well-being. So here are some of the examples of the types of care that we will consider. You can apply for things like the purchase of gender-affirming wigs or prosthetics, the fees associated with obtaining approval towards gender-affirming care. So that might be letters from licensed therapists so that you can then go on and access HRT or surgery. The fees associated with getting or updating passports, driver's licenses, state IDs, birth certificates, and tribal IDs. The cost of hiring professional nursing or caregiving support following a surgery. You can apply for retail purchases like the purchase of an IPL at-home hair removal device. The fund will cover waxing services and other non-permanent types of hair removal, vocal therapy or voice training sessions, medical tattooing, fertility preservation or reproductive health services, especially things like PrEP, contraception, IUDs, and birth control implants, as well as legal services, specifically related to healthcare needs. So this might look like estate planning, adoption, marriage, wills, really other legal planning that sets you up for success in the future. So this fund does not cover transportation, housing, or emergency needs. So as I quickly mentioned before, that means at this time, unfortunately, we can't provide financial aid towards travel or lodging to another state or country, permanent relocation, such as if you're moving to a state or a country where healthcare is more accessible. It cannot cover basic living expenses like rent, utilities, clothing, or groceries, and it cannot cover crisis or emergency funding. And again, this fund unfortunately does not reimburse for purchases, needs, services that have already happened, that you've already paid for. If you do not meet any of these requirements, there is a feedback form that we would love for you to submit. I'm sure Tyler will drop it in the chat. Um, this is a young program, and we want to be nimble to the needs of the community, so we want to hear from you. Your feedback will help us expand to better serve the community in the future. Just some other eligibility things. So you can apply regardless of your employment, housing, disability, or immigration status. You can apply regardless of whether or not you have health insurance. You can apply regardless of whether or not you're on hormone replacement therapy or taking any other steps in your transition. And if you've already received funding or support from Point of Pride in the past through a different program, you're still welcome and eligible to apply. That does not have bearing on your likelihood of receiving funding. All right, cool. Application timeline. We are going to begin accepting applications on Thursday, August 1st. It will be open the entire month of August, which means it closes on Saturday, August 31st, at the stroke of midnight. When you apply, whether you do it first thing August 1st or 11:58 p.m. on August 31st, that has no impact on your likelihood of receiving funding. This is not a lottery type program, which I'll share more about in a second. That deadline is a hard deadline. Unfortunately, we cannot accept any applications past August 31st. Cool. So now let's talk about what you can expect as an applicant. For help as you navigate our application process, you can list someone else on your application as a liaison, a translator, or a general support person. Whoever you name will be CC'd on all email notifications regarding your application. And if you want to revoke that or change your support person, you can do so at any time simply by contacting us. So your support person can be a friend, a chosen or blood family member, a counselor or social worker. It can be anyone in your life that you feel will help you navigate the process and submit a high quality application. Support people are also able to apply during the same application cycle. So let's say you and a friend are also are both applying to the Thrive Fund. You can be both an applicant for your own request and a support person to your friend. If you are under the age of 18, you will be required to list your parent or your legal guardian as a support person. Our application form will ask you for basic contact information, demographic information, which is totally optional for you to fill out, information about your healthcare needs. You'll tell us what you need. And then there'll be 2 to 3 short answer responses in which you'll explain a little bit more about your request, your financial need, and how this impacts your healthcare. All of these questions are explained in detail in something called an instruction packet, which I'll talk about in a second. The form itself is hosted on JotForm, which is a secure HIPAA compliant platform. Our whole team takes privacy and security extremely seriously. So we follow privacy best practices. More information about all of that can be found in the privacy policy on our website. And we're going to do something a little bit atypical. We've never done this on an info session before, but we need your help. So this is a young program, as I mentioned, and our form currently includes 2 short answer prompts. The first one asks you to explain your financial situation. And then the second question asks about how access to your requested healthcare need or service will impact you. Reviewers really want to understand how your request supports a gender-affirming healthcare need. Again, we want to understand how, the purchase of a wig or access to fertility preservation will lead to real, tangible, positive outcomes in your life, as just 2 examples. So there is a new poll that Tyler has just dropped. Tell us which of these questions you feel is clearer to you. Your options are, how would access to this care impact your life? Or explain how access to this care supports your healthcare journey or overall well-being. So I'll pause a second. Let us know if one of those questions just feels clearer to you and you feel like you have a better understanding of what you might put in that text field, what our reviewers want to hear. Next time, Tyler, we should play some Jeopardy hold music for this. A little housekeeping. Tyler, can you see our poll responses coming in?
I can, yes.
Fantastic. So will you let me know when we're in a good place to keep going?
We are in a good place to keep going.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for your feedback. We truly do appreciate it. So we'll look at what y'all voted for, and we'll talk to our grant making team as well. One of those versions of the question is what will appear on our application form this cycle, and we're going to put it into our instruction packet. So this is a very thorough document that walks you through every single question on our form in advance. That way, you know exactly what our reviewers are hoping to understand about your unique needs. So we really recommend that you consider or maybe even draft your written responses ahead of time. Many applicants have told us it's been really useful to just, start putting ideas down in a Google Doc somewhere because you are unable to save progress on our application form. So you might want to draft it ahead of time in a separate spot. Specific, thorough responses are key. And so by that, I mean, we're going to allow up to 800 characters, which is roughly 160 words for you to respond to both of those short answer responses. What you share is going to be held completely confidentially. It will only be shared with the reviewers that are reading your application. If you're selected as a recipient down the road, nothing that you share in these short answer responses will be shared publicly without your written permission. I want to remind y'all that we're not trying to test writing skills or English skills. So grammar, spelling, how well you communicate won't affect your application. What matters is that you provide us with specific details so that we can fully understand your unique situation and the barriers that you are facing in accessing that healthcare. So don't worry about writing perfect answers. If you find yourself with extra space, definitely consider if there's more that you might want to share so that we can really see the fuller picture. And we're living in a new age of ChatGPT and AI becoming really commonplace. So we really want to make sure there's authenticity in what you're writing. If you choose to use AI like ChatGPT, we ask that you do so as a tool to edit something that you've already written and not create answers entirely from scratch. We've seen applicants do that, and it just lacks that personal context. And reviewers aren't really able to understand your specific needs and situation. When you apply, you may request up to a maximum award of $2,500. Typically, I think in 99% of cases, grants are paid directly to your service provider or your retailer. In very rare instances where Point of Pride must pay you directly, it would be your responsibility to report this income. We have more information about the tax implications of receiving a direct payment from us on our website in the FAQs section. And many applicants need more than $2,500. That's okay. If your request exceeds that amount, you'll have an extra follow-up question in which you should be prepared to explain the total cost, as well as how you intend to make up the difference in cost. So after you submit your application, if our reviewers determine that they need additional information, we'll reach out to you via email. You may be invited to submit additional written responses or participate in a brief phone or online interview. If you are selected as a recipient, we will then contact you via email or phone regarding next steps. The full details of your award is going to be explained in a recipient agreement. And some notes just about security and privacy. Unfortunately, we have had instances of fraud in the past, so we want to make this super duper clear. We will never ask you for sensitive information. So Tyler, Abby, myself, we will never reach out asking for banking information, account numbers, routing numbers, anything that's sensitive to your identity or your financial details. We'll also never request your social security number via email. We will never ask you to send us money. We send the money out, not the other way around. So, in the event that your award package requires some financial responsibility on your part, which is common, you will be required to pay it directly to your care provider and not to Point of Pride. And that's because Point of Pride does not perform or provide medical care directly. We do not employ or contract with surgeons, physicians, electrologists, nurses, or mental health professionals. We provide financial support by paying those service providers. So again, we don't perform surgery, prescribe HRT, or offer medical services ourselves. And all official communication is always going to come to you from an email address that ends at pointofpride.org. We're never going to reach out to you from a personal email or a Gmail or anything like that, or social media for that matter. If Tyler hasn't already, I'm sure it's imminent. We have a webpage called pointofpride.org/safety that goes over all of this and more. So our last note, if you are not selected as a recipient, we will notify you via email, and you are welcome to apply again during the next application cycle. The Thrive Fund is an annual program, so we will accept applications again in 2026. I do want to note that our team will hold on to your application materials for that full year. In the past, sometimes we've received additional grants, resources, and other opportunities that have enabled us to pair more candidates with financial aid. So if that's the case, we're going to reach out to you later in the year via email. We have a full list of FAQs on the program webpage, but I wanted to take just a few minutes to go over the questions that we hear most often. So the first is, what are the age requirements? For most types of support, you must be 18 or older or have permission from a parent or guardian. And our application form will let you know if this applies to you. Are there any health or BMI requirements in order to apply? No. Point of Pride does not have any requirements or limitations, but we also recognize that some providers might. So, depending on your unique circumstances, it will be your responsibility to meet any of the requirements that are set forth by your provider. Can the fund reimburse past transition related expenses? Unfortunately, no. We understand the challenges of debt and medical loans that so many of us have had to deal with in order to get the care we need and deserve. Unfortunately, at this time, uh, you must apply for financial aid towards services or purchases that have not happened yet. And that's because we pay our grants directly to providers or retailers beforehand. Can you help me find a provider or a retailer? Unfortunately, no. Our team does not have the expertise or the ability at this time to provide referrals or recommendations. So, we also feel that you're going to be the best judge of your own needs and healthcare journey. So, we recommend that you research independently, perhaps talk to other trans folks, reach out to an LGBTQ center for those recommendations on where you can start your research. Can I submit more than one application? Unfortunately, no. We recognize that so many of us have multiple healthcare needs that we're trying to navigate at the same time. At this time, however, we will only accept one application per funding cycle. And our last FAQ, and I know this is a tough one, if I'm awarded funding, how might current laws or political changes affect my access to care? Um, we understand that laws around gender affirming care in the United States are changing rapidly, and it can feel really overwhelming. Tyler, Abby, and myself, the whole team, we really want to do our best to help support you every step of the way. So what that looks like is we partner very closely with providers, with peer nonprofit organizations, and we keep a close eye on legislation at the state and the national level. We will make every effort to communicate with you ahead of time if we see changes in policy that could impact your grant. So if you're selected as a recipient, we will stay in close touch with you to help you navigate any potential disruptions and make sure you get the support you need. All right, so now we'll go over what our reviews process looks like. It's August 31st. Our application cycle has closed, and the first thing that Tyler does the next day is hide identifying information from all of our applications. So he hides names, email addresses, phone numbers. Applications get shuffled into randomized packets of 50 for review. That's why there's no advantage to whether you submit your application earlier in our window rather than later. They all get shuffled up together. These packets then get distributed to our reviewers. Our reviewers are our board of directors, our staff, and our community grant-making fellows. These are specially trained grant-making volunteers who identify as trans and go through rigorous training and continuing ongoing education. So To minimize the impacts of unconscious bias, all of our reviewers follow the same scoring rubric. We receive the same continuing education. And every application, your application will be read by at least two different reviewers. Tyler will keep me honest, but in actuality, I think it's always been three reviewers.
Yeah, it's typically three.
Cool. This process takes time, especially because we want to be really thoughtful with each and every application that comes in, and we expect to receive thousands of applications. So we estimate it will take 8 to 12 weeks from the end of the application window to review and select our recipients. Again, we do expect this will be a competitive process. We're anticipating 5 to 20% of applicants will be selected as recipients. You will hear from us via email regarding your application status. So if 12 weeks have gone by and you haven't heard from us, we recommend checking your spam filter. But something that you can do right after today's info session is add pointofpride.org to your safe senders list. This makes sure you never miss a message in the future. All right, now we'll chat a little bit about what you can expect as a recipient of the program. So if you are awarded funding through the Thrive Fund, you're going to get an email. That email will contain an attachment called your grant agreement. This explains the full details of your award. It's going to restate some of the information you put in our application. It will include the grant award amount, which will be customized based on your request. Again, the maximum amount that we can award through this program is $2,500. And the agreement will also go over the grant timeline. You will have a window of time in which you can utilize this funding with your chosen service provider or retailer. For retail purchases, this period of time will be 6 months. So purchase of a wig, a prosthetic, a purchase. For services like vocal training or things like that, it will be 18 months. So we give more time for services and a shorter period for retail. That email you get will also contain a couple other forms. We'll ask you to complete a HIPAA disclosure. This names Tyler and myself as points of contact that can speak to your provider or retailer. We don't ask for any personal information. This is just for payment, so we can fulfill payments on your behalf. There'll be a support person disclosure form. This just makes sure that if you did name a support person as you were going through the application process, that you're still comfortable with them being included in all future messages about your grant award or payments or things like that. So this is another time that you can change or remove a support person. There's also going to be something called a partner authorization form. So Point of Pride builds relationships with other nonprofits that serve the trans community or serve people who need healthcare. And these organizations offer services that Point of Pride does not. And so we can refer you to trusted partner organizations to see if anything they offer might be beneficial. It's entirely up to you. It's only in that event that you opt in would we ever share personal contact information with a trusted third-party org. And then lastly, we have a media disclosure. You'll see a screenshot of what this looks like on the slide here. You'll have the option to tell us exactly how you want your name, photos, and other details to be shared publicly. And for your privacy and security, you can be as anonymous as you like. And a little bit more on what we mean by that. If you follow us on social or you've been on our website, you might see public-facing announcements. This is us being transparent with the community, with our donors, but most importantly, sharing trans stories. We encourage our recipients to write their stories in a way that feels affirming and safe for them. This means that many recipients choose not to publicly disclose personal or even traumatic details that were shared privately in their original applications. With so many mainstream stories that focus on trans hardship, we believe that allowing recipients to have complete control over their story and what they choose to share helps foster trans joy. So you'll see in the right of this slide, um, some recipients have chosen to use their photo, some have not. It's blurred. In some instances, we will use stock photos to represent a recipient's ethnicity origin. So if you'd like, you can read through our website to see their stories and more examples of what this looks like. But again, nothing ever gets published to our website, to social media, without your approval and permission. And you will also be invited to attend what we call a before you accept info session. It looks and acts a lot like this session today. It's an opportunity for Tyler and Abby to go over all the paperwork you received in detail and answer any questions that you might have. So this is something you'll be invited to before you submit signed paperwork. All right, so that's the end of the presentation portion of today's info session. I want to say again, thank you for being here, for your time and attention. When you leave today's info session, you're going to see a link to a very quick feedback form. Please take a minute, fill it out, let us know your thoughts so we can continuously improve. Thank you in advance. If you ever want to connect with us, a question pops into your head after you leave the info session today, please send us an email at thrive@pointofpride.org. You can also connect with us on social media, or you can visit www.pointofpride.org. And so with that, I'm going to go into today's open Q&A. I think we might have had a couple questions come in that Tyler has already responded to. So I'm just going to play catch up for a second. So an attendee asks, if I received support from Point of Pride in the past, am I eligible to apply? Yes, absolutely. It will not impact your likelihood of receiving funding positively or negatively because our grant making reviewers will not know that you were a recipient of past support through a different program. So yes, please apply. Another attendee asks, does it matter how much I have in my savings? Can I apply even if I don't have any money saved yet? So yes, absolutely. You can apply regardless of how much savings you currently have. One of our short answer responses will allow you to tell us more about your financial situation. So that's where you can provide more color about your savings, just your overall financial picture. But that does not impact eligibility whatsoever. Okay, another attendee asks, um, will I need to have selected a provider before applying? So good question. No. If you're seeking a service with a provider, so like whether that's a medical service, like medical, tattooing, or even if it's a non-medical, like vocal coaching or vocal training, anything where anyone is providing a service to you, no, you do not need to have your preferred provider in mind at the time that you apply. In the application, we're going to ask if you've already received a quote, but if you haven't had a quote yet, or if you haven't consulted with anybody yet, that's totally okay. This will not impact your eligibility or likelihood of receiving a grant. Someone asks, would a full latex female bodysuit qualify as a prosthetic in terms of eligibility? Tyler already answered you, but I'll say for the group, yes, it would. Another attendee asks, can I submit multiple applications for each of my healthcare needs? Um, Unfortunately, no. We know so many of us in the community have multiple healthcare needs we're trying to address at the same time. This is still a very young program, and with our current resources, we are requiring only one application per applicant per application cycle. If you were to submit multiple ones, we would only consider the first one that's received. Any other submissions would be disregarded. All right, cool. So another attendee writes, what kind of proof does one need to provide in order to receive the grant? Also, for legal expenses such as name change, do you guys do direct deposit checks to individuals if they're not within the US? All right, I'm going to start to answer this, and Tyler, if I stumble, you will save me. In terms of proof, we actually we operate on the honor system with most everything we do at Point of Pride. So we will not ask you to submit sensitive identity or financial information to us to like verify your financial need or anything like that. Some services, your provider might need certain types of proof, identity proof, or being what comes to mind, right? So depending on your specific need, um, we might pay your provider, but your provider might need you to submit proof. I feel like I could have said that better, but hopefully that made sense. In terms of legal expenses, so last year was the first year we did this program. It was limited just within the United States. I mentioned that we want to serve people outside of the US, but it will be on a case-by-case basis, depending on state and federal law and just logistics. We have an attorney on our advisory board that will help us make sure that we are able to actually support people. It's going to be dependent also on where they live and the type of request that they have. Um, we try to avoid paying individuals directly whenever we can because we know it has tax and income ramifications. And so many people that we serve receive disability or other types of assistance programs that we don't want to jeopardize. So in theory, yes, we might be able to directly pay an individual towards navigating a name change, but I can't say that for certain just because we're going to take all of your personalized, all of the factors in your situation into account. I see Tyler nodding. Thank you for that question, and I wish I could give more specifics. It's just there's so many variables that our grant makers are going to have to consider there.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add is that, like, as far as proof is concerned, we don't require any, like Jeff said, to your trans identity. However, when it comes to proving the amount, say, that your name change will cost, we will ask you to upload a quote or invoice or some sort of documentation showing that that's how much it costs. What some folks have done in the past is like a screenshot of their Department of State's website explaining that, this is how much it costs to file for the name change. This is how much certified copies cost. So I am requesting this amount.
That's great. Thank you, Tyler. All right. I think we have answered all of the questions currently open in the Q&A. So I will pause for a couple seconds in case other questions come up for folks. Okay. Someone asks, I need fertility health services for egg retrieval, but I haven't started researching anything about the process yet. Can I still apply? Um, yes, absolutely. This is a great example of even though your healthcare request is not like a one-time procedure or doesn't have clearly defined start and end dates, you can still definitely apply. We don't expect that you'll have all of the information or details about your care worked out. We would expect you that to have some details, like some basic information in your head in order to apply. That's because if your services are going to exceed $2,500, we're going to ask you to explain how you intend to make up that difference. Fertility services in particular are unfortunately very expensive usually. So our reviewers would be expecting you to provide some level of, detailed response there on, so knowing the rough estimate of what egg retrieval might cost, um, so that you're able to answer that question of how you'd make up the difference would help you submit a strong application. I hope that helps. All right, cool. And then uh, I'll repeat this question Tyler just answered for the group. Can we ask for assistance up to the maximum amount of $2,500? Yes, you can. Many of our applicants do. And if your expense exceeds that total, again, we'll just ask you to explain what you anticipate the total cost to look like and how you intend to make up the difference in cost. Okay, awesome. I see our Q&A is slowing down. So I just want to say thank you all so much for those, great questions, for your feedback on our poll earlier today. And if I can have one more minute of that feedback, again, you're going to get a link to a quick feedback form when you leave today's session. Thank you in advance, for taking a minute to share your thoughts with us. And yeah, hope you all have a lovely day or however much is left of your Sunday, wherever you are. Take care, everybody. Thank you.